Hello, everyone, and welcome to Eleanor's Elite Radio, and I am your host, Eleanor. Today is a very hot day, once again, here in Florida, and we're dealing with really extensive weather. Anyway, I am here in air conditioning in the studio, and it's a wonderful day, and I have a wonderful guest on today. Her name is Dr. Christine Salindas, and she is a neuropsychologist. And Christine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Dr. Christine, tell me the name of your group or your center, which is located in downtown Melbourne at the 1900 building. What is the name of it?
It's the Space Coast Neuropsychology Center, and we're right in downtown Melbourne in the 1900 building.
Wonderful. And can you tell my listeners, please, exactly what does a neuropsychologist do?
A neuropsychologist is a psychologist with specialty training in how the brain functions and also behavior. And what we do is we actually help to diagnose and we treat either developmental, medical, or neurological conditions. So we do testing to figure out how someone's cognitive functions, is, and we also do things like IQ, attention, memory, but we also focus on behavior, because if someone's had a change in because of a medical condition, obviously they're going to have some emotional, behavioral impact as well. But I think I'm unique because I look at the whole child or adult, and I also work with families and also their caregivers or providers or school systems as well.
Now, am I wrong in stating that you do specialize with in children, correct?
Yes, I actually do work with all ages, but my fellowship training was in pediatric, and I'm the only pediatric neuropsychologist with the same level of training and expertise in Space Coast.
Wow,
so I'm excited to be relocated here and work with the families in the Space Coast area.
And that's a wonderful thing, and because you do know my love is for children, and I have such a passion for helping a lot of children. And in my years of being an educator, I found that there have been many instances that I get to see the behavior of a child, and a lot of times the parents are just not aware, because they accept it as either bad behavior, or they accept it as just part of growing up, or being a boy or being a girl, etc. And there are a lot of times as an educator, we're only limited to what we can do. We can make recommendations, but we cannot say, well, I know your child has a speech, has a deficit in speech, or is suffering from attention deficit, or, we're not permitted to do that as educators. We're just only permitted to recommend them to be tested. And I'll assume this is where you kind of come in, right?
Yes, I hear the same thing. Sometimes people come in and they say, their child is lazy, or someone even in their, school setting kind of sees that. And I think that part of my specialty is really trying to get at the root cause. I think that sometimes children might be behaving that way, and that may be a sign that something isn't really working out. It's difficult for children and people in general to say something's difficult for them, and so they might start to act out or have outbursts or be a class clown because maybe school's difficult and they're having a learning disability, for example. And part of neuropsychology is we do specialized, standardized tests to figure out, how someone's brain is functioning and working, and whether there's any underlying areas of growth, as I say, or difficulty or a real deficit, and then working with someone's strengths. Everybody has strengths as well, and I think I'm unique in that I try to identify, what are this child's strengths and weaknesses, and if we can work with those strengths and help them compensate or work around the areas of difficulty, then we can help this child thrive and learn skills, so as they continue to grow, they can really learn how to learn, which is one of those, areas as we get into kind of upper elementary school years that becomes really an important stage for thinking about how this child's going to be successful, and giving them tools so that they can be in the future successful and meet their goals.
Christina, could you please give parents a way to contact you via telephone or I think it's the Space Coast Neuropsychology Center, correct?
Yes, we have a website. It's spacecoastneuropsychology.com, and I'm going to spell that out loud, and it's NEUROPSYCHOLOGY. And then we also have a Facebook page, and we just launched a newsletter. So if people go to the website, they can also sign up for the newsletter, and I give helpful tips about different conditions and disorders, and actually just even activities to promote development in typically developing children. And we also have an email address. It's the help desk at spacecoastneuropsychology.com. We do a lot during, online and have accessibility because I'm a mom myself, and I know that I'm more productive, before 7 a.m. and after 8 p.m. when my child goes to sleep. So we wanted parents to be able to, fill out forms or contact us or access us. And I'm very excited because I actually just launched a telehealth platform and also concierge services. So I'm actually available remotely while people are on the go, or again in these after hours if they have questions, or we can do parent training, or even I make house calls or go to schools as well. And I think that that's more beneficial because if you have more access on an ongoing basis to a healthcare provider, then it's probably going to limit the crises that happen in people's family. And, people don't have issues only from 9 to 5. So if they can have access to me on other times, I think that's when people need it the most.
And Christine, what is the youngest child you're permitted to work with? Any age?
I have training and expertise to work with kids at infants, from infancy through 21, if you consider that still developmental. And I'm actually just became an early steps provider. So I have a lot of expertise in working with even expectant mothers who might have at-risk children. They know that they're going to have a genetic condition, or they've had a ultrasound or even a fetal MRI, and they know that their child's going to have hydrocephalus or some type of condition. And I have training in working with mothers like that, and also with the infants once they're born. Obviously, we don't do memory and comprehensive evaluations in a child that young, but there are standardized developmental tools that we can use to see if a child is on track. And then I think the most important thing is working with those parents, particularly if it's their first child, and there's a lot of grief and transition involved with adapting to having a child that might not have met the expectations they originally had, but also helping promote the bonding and attachment, and seeing the real strengths of that child despite any of the conditions that they're having.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you, now you said you're with Early Steps, which is in Viera, correct? At the Board of Health, right? The back building, if I remember correctly.
That's the administrative building, but there is a center on Hibiscus in Melbourne, and Early Steps is a statewide program. It's in every state, but we call it Early Steps in Florida, and it's for children that, again, aren't risk for developmental delay. They might have been born early, or parents might just have some concerns that their child doesn't seem to be right on track. You can go to Early Steps, and again, I'm a provider either through consultation when when they need neuropsychology help, or I do those services on my own here at my own practice.
Well, that's good to know, because I have a dear friend of mine who is taking their almost 2-year-old child to Early Steps. And although a wonderful program, the testing was great in a way, because I feel that she asked me to go with her because I am a big part of her life, and I am around the child a lot, and I am an educator for many years. And the child was just having an off day that day. They do, however, of course, the child qualified for help because he's not speaking up to par for his age just yet. And so there's a lovely therapist that comes out once a week, and, they play with Play-Doh, and they do a lot of hands-on, gross, fine motor skill, pincer stuff, but I haven't yet seen, because my son suffered from being nonverbal when he was a baby. And we went specifically to speech pathologists where they taught him in under 6 months that he was speaking. He had a very limited vocabulary, and within 3 to 4 months, his vocabulary shot up over 200 words. But I don't see that happening here with Early Steps. And I'm wondering if I should recommend my friend to go seek out a speech pathologist specifically.
Well, I think that, every child is different. It's very important to know that. And, every child, just like every person responds differently to a medication, they will also respond differently to the same service and even to the same provider doing, speech therapy. And I think the other thing is the age at which the child, 6 months makes a huge difference when you're speaking about a 6-month-old or an 18-month-old or a 4-year-old. Therefore, the time at which you get the therapy can also make a huge impact on the progress. But to speak directly to your question, some children have significant language delays, and again, I think it's important to understand what's the driver of that language disorder,
exactly,
and the root cause, and that's where I think as a neuropsychologist, I'm trained in understanding how the brain works, how it develops, what to expect, not only now but in the future, and the prognosis, and that's very important, so that you can create, realistic goals with each child and their family. Also, what's practical for this family.
Right.
So, for some people, affordability might be an issue, and the good news is that there's, Early Steps. There might be a way to have wide access to everyone involved. For people that, a child like you're describing, and if they're really not making progress and there's a plateau, then it might be that you need to increase the intensity at which you receive these therapies. So, you might want to do early intervention, but you also might want to supplement with private therapy.
Right.
Obviously, if you have these resources.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, because we didn't go through any state program when my son was born 27 years ago. We went to a private speech pathologist, and they were wonderful. I love them both. I remember their names, and I see them from time to time and still hug and kiss them, because I just love them so much for, giving my son that ability of speech, because we take everything, I think, sometimes for granted. And, there's a lot of parents, that do have delayed children, whether it be in speech or gross motor. There's just a lot of different areas in which children could utilize your help with. I read an article this morning, just one quick article. This is kind of off topic, but the Department of Justice just released a article, or a study, I should say, it wasn't an article, how inmates that have mental illnesses are kept in an isolation facility, or housing, I should say, not facility. It's not like when you're bad and you go to a cell by yourself, but they are kept in isolated housing. And the study, of course, shows, it's almost like you want to go, duh, but the study shows how these people, these inmates with mental disorders, are only getting worse, and the impact of being in isolation is hurting them even more. And sometimes they can be kept there for up to 19 years. And now I guess the government's going to kind of step in and make sure that these people get the proper care that they need. Usually my belief is, especially for children, that if you're in jail because of hurting a child or harming a child, I don't really care where you are or what you do. Really, I don't. And I know that's not really politically correct of me to say, but I could care less.